And we're on our final chapters 14 and 15.
Save the best for last. Chapter 14.
I like that. That saving the best for last. That's so much different than saying it has to be over soon.
Right. Where to begin at the end?
I know.
Do you have any opening thoughts?
I have my very first highlight.
Okay.
I think I highlighted this because I see this coming up a lot in other people, and it's what initially came up so much for myself. At the end of page 252, she writes, "Helping another is helping yourself. Whatever you give, you also receive." Some American Indian cultures refer to this gentle tornado of compassion as mending the hoop of the people. The more you experience the world this way, the less interesting it becomes to sustain any other state of consciousness. Being a mender is a great way to live. And these days, it's also a great way to make a living. I just thought that was so wonderful, like to be fully immersed in the idea that I can help others by helping myself. And that this journey of inner work will lead to outcomes and results for others. It just felt so natural.
Yeah, it's so natural and so complete.
Yes. Yeah, complete.
I have the same paragraph highlighted, but I have it started a bit ahead of you. In that healing is a natural effect of the love experienced in oneness, and oneness can't help but respond to the energy of healing by offering more love.
Ooh, for some reason that did not jump out at me, and it is totally tickling my heart.
It's just that never ending, like give and take. It's just reciprocity, and it just doesn't, there's no it.
It's beautiful, 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 beautiful. Mending the hoop of the people.
So it's interesting. Martha starts out the chapter with that, but then it seems to kind of get into more the concrete examples. Wouldn't you say?
Well, because this is when it starts to take form. This is when it has to sort of be sustainable. Like you sort of have to wake up from the dream of dreaming and start forming. But one of the things that I thought she positioned really well is when she started to talk about Daniel Pink's A Whole New Mind on page 255. She goes over this transition that our society has gone through, where we've moved from a farming society to factory workers to a knowledge society. And this is being positioned as sort of the new society, the wild new world, the world where we go back, in a different setting, because there's a lot more technology and it's a different world than it was then, but back to where and how it was like when this country started, when you had gifts that you offered to the world and you received back, almost like not a bartering system, but if you were a butcher, you were a butcher during the day, you were a butcher at night. It was your identity. I think what's separating people and making them feel very confused and disillusioned and without meaning and all that other stuff is that they walk into a building or they walk into an office and they feel like they have to be somebody different than who they actually are. So this is about being a healer in every way. Never having to take off that mask or put on a mask of being anything other than what you already are.
Yeah, and it's that idea of living wholly and living your passion. And what's so interesting, or what I really liked about this too, is, when she talks about those um, different life cycles, if you will, different stages in our evolution as a society, especially, regarding the whole idea of work. It seems to be that a lot of people, when you ask someone why they don't do what they love, there are all of these other factors to consider. And Martha does a good job at pointing out and giving examples of how those kind of yeah, but statements aren't going to work anymore. The only, like, the concrete reason why you should live by doing what you love is because that's how you're going to survive.
Yes. And one of the things that she's talked about, I'm not so sure that I can point to it in the book, but I've heard her say, and I believe, you don't have to walk away from one thing to have another. It's not a choice between either or. It's this and. So if you love to dance, then dance. You don't have to, quote unquote, find a job that pays you to dance. You could teach dancing, you can write about dancing, you can draw about dancing. And I love how this chapter sort of starts to help you imagine how your art is going to take form, because it can take form in all different kinds of ways. But I think it's very important for both us and our listeners to think and remember, not to think, but to remember that it's not a choice between either or. You can have this and that.
Mm-hmm. And you do, at least I do definitely, have to remind myself that of almost on a daily basis. Because I feel like I have been conditioned to think I am a very black and white person. Because I think that's something I've learned. And so it's kind of, wiggling my way out of that concept and getting to that idea of this and.
Say more, because I think that's going to help people a lot.
Well, I think there's, throughout this book also, there's this concept of the right way. And I have definitely been someone who has strived to live the right way, whether that be in terms of expectations of my parents, of my education and facilitators, anything. I mean, to the big, grand cultural spectrum, I try to do things the right way. And having gone through that process of realizing doing things the right way isn't really getting me what I want or where I want to be, I'm slowly having to make changes and adjust that mindset.
And how do you do that?
Well, just these constant reminders. It's kind of going within yourself and giving yourself space to realize what's right for you instead of the external factors.
That's beautiful. And it's very noble to be there now at your life stage and not to have had 2 or 3 lifetimes into it to then look back like so many people do in their later stages of their life, to say, I always knew, I always did something for someone else and never did it for myself. And that brings to mind a quote by Carl Jung, and I won't remember the entire part of it, but the part that sticks out for me is, the person who looks in awakens. And then the same thing honestly happened in my life, but it took decades and decades, Sarita, for me to figure it out. Because the idea for me was that if I did the right things in the right way, then I would then get what I wanted. So it was like, I will do this so that I can get that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the American dream and felt guilty for it. Like I wasn't able to enjoy it. And I was sort of upset that it didn't give me what I thought it would. And now I'm in what Martha calls stage 4. Is that what we call the
Square 4?
Square
Yep.
4. I'm so sorry. I'm all like in my mental mind. But I'm in square 4 where this is where I want to stay. This is like pretty cool. Like I move in and out of it pretty rapidly, especially with my adult sons not being at home and that being such a core part of my identity, that nurturing mother role. But overall, there is really little to no suffering in my life. And being able to enjoy that and revel in that is like freaking, I get an Olympic medal for that shit. Forgive my French.
Yeah.
And I love that my work in the world is to help people find that same awe, that same joy in their daily living, in the simplicity of their daily living, because as big as your life is or as small as it is, you still have access to the same level of meaning and joy as everyone else. It does not matter how many shoes are in your closet, how many outfits you have, how many purses you have, or how many toys you have. You have access to that internal wellspring of joy and meaning, because so many people that have those outward things don't know how to fill that meaning up. And that's what happened to me. That's what was my experience. I had everything, all the trappings of success. And then I looked at myself and said, well, what the heck? When do I get happy? When do I get happy, right? Like as if it's an object. And that's when I turned inward and started to explore that. And life is grand.
I'm curious. Oh, wise one.
And
that's
with the wrinkles and everything, and the white hair.
No, come now. Oh no, here it comes again. Here it comes. I'll hold back.
Do it.
I know our listeners are confused at this point, but no, I wanted to ask you about the infinity loop and how that works, with you. Do you find yourself following the infinity loop of rest and play?
I love how Martha uses the infinity loop of rest and play, and I do find myself doing that, and I'm much more compassionate with myself in it, because I used to be more of a white knuckles, nose to the grindstone, get work done. And I find over and over again that when I listen to the movement that I'm in, then I know when it's time to rest. Like I have no guilt now in looking at David and saying, it's time for a nap. I am having a nap. And
I think that's an accomplishment in itself, to not have guilt
around that.
Taking a nap.
No, I got to tell you that one of my, we have different goals at different life stages, and my goal is to take at least one full, long bubble bath a week. There's no reason why that should not happen. And when I'm in it, I'm like, yes. And when I don't do it, I look at myself and go, now what was more important than that?
Mm-hmm.
So I do rest and play a lot. And actually what I found, it was a cute little similarity that I didn't, before I knew about Martha's rest and play, or maybe popped it out of my head, I'm not sure. My own logo sort of looks like that. And my infinity loop is love being human. So knowing where you are, creating a space for what you need, and then moving towards inspired action, which is in all realities a more complex version of rest and play. But I don't know. Yeah, so yes. The answer is yes in a shorter answer.
Well, I think it's interesting to hear others' perspectives and their reaction to the infinity loop. Because I have to be honest, when I first read it, I was looking at it and I'm like, oh, that looks pretty. And I was following it. And I noticed that there were 4 plays in the middle, like play, like the X across it. But then I was looking at it and it was like play, play, rest, 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 play, play, rest, rest, rest. And I was like, ah, what? We rest more than play? It was kind of like because I understood the substitute of play or the substitute, like taking the place of work. And so I still had that mentality, although I had given it a different label, play versus work, I still had that kind of association that you have to do more of it. And that's not what it is at all.
No, not at all. That the rest informs the play.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're at page 266, and I think we skipped over some really good stuff. On page 265, I underlined fun and games. What about work being play and then thinking of play as fun and games makes that difficult? Because I think that was kind of hard for my mind to grasp. But when I think of the puzzle cracking puzzle cracking that we've learned, then I understand it in that our minds naturally play games. And when we can make a game and have fun with something, then we bring to life, honestly, a more beautiful result than we could have done in just doing it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, and part of that goes with giving ourselves permission, I think, because I think there's, I don't know, this concept of, okay, if we're talking about this idea of, you know, making it a puzzle and having it be a game, technically, that's a mind shift. That's just changing the perspective, and, you know, nothing really changes in the physical form except your perspective. And so it's like allowing yourself to believe that it can be just as good that way or better.
And not only believe, but experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the key to Martha's work is the embodiment, is the experience of making it fun in games and not. But I've got to be honest, as I'm thinking about this, I'm having this Teo moment. You know, one of our core values as Martha Beck coaches is to be transparent, authentic, and honest.
And open.
Thank you. Transparent, authentic, and open. You know why I said honest? Another Freudian slip. Because I was feeling a little dishonest.
Were you?
I was. I had a meeting with my business coach earlier, and she was chastising me because I was moving on to different stages and not working on the stage that I'm in right now. And I just realized that I'm not working on it the way she wants me to because that's not fun for me.
Mm.
Like, I want to do it in a different way that's fun for me. And but even though I'm paying her to coach me, I'm falling into that whole society of fitting into that box, where I should have the courage and the wherewithal to say exactly what I just said to you. That's not fun for me. I want to do it a different way.
Right. And I would say, hey, chastise. I don't know if I like that idea either.
Me either, but I definitely chastised.
Vivian.
I know, I was being a little rebel, but that's interesting. Yeah. This honestly plays out in layers over in all parts of my life. When I'm not being myself, when I'm not being brave enough or having the courage enough to say to someone what's true for me, it creates drama. And so if I had been brave enough to say to her, hey, this isn't fun for me, let's figure out a different way, that other situation probably wouldn't have happened that way. Does that make sense?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But we fall into those constraints of culture and of society. And then it's almost like we look back and scratch our heads and go, how did that happen?
Mm-hmm. And the opposite effect would happen simply like you had been saying is by practicing an experience. You know, the more comfortable and more natural it becomes to you to speak in your integrity per se, or to say what you really believe or what's true to you at that moment, is a practice, because I feel like we've been practiced out of that.
That's so... Let's ring some bells and, you know, ding, 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 ding. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And when you get a whiff of it, now, not from, for you that's listening, not from Sarah's experience and not from mine, but when you get a whiff of it, when you have the experience that, hey, I did this different, but I did it for me in my way. And then you realize that the walls won't crumble around you. Write that down. Put it on your mirror. Remember what that feeling is like. Remember what that tasted like, what it was, just the experience of it, so that you will know when you're close to it again. So you can hunt that track out.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of, you know, the building blocks, or, you know, building the foundation for everything that's yet to come. It's kind of that idea of empowerment.
What does empowerment mean to you?
When you had described that, when you said kind of the lift, I imagine this wafting sensation, kind of like it's the feeling in your body. Like I envision it kind of rising up from your feet and into your kind of being. Mm-hmm. And it's that sense of yes.
Yes. Yeah. And that's so different than the little yeses that we get in life. Mm-hmm. The little yeses that when you look at them, they're not that big of a yes. But that wafting, that coming in from the soles of your feet, from the power of the earth, from the most sort of essential essence of who you are, and then moving up through you and out into the world. That's your work. That's your magic. Mm-hmm. So that's how you form a living. The fun of success.
I have my last little sticky, I think, is in the next chapter, so that's why I'm kind of holding off.
I think that's where we are, because I was just actually at the end of chapter 14, so we are right in sync.
Okay, P.S. Before we go into 15, did you watch the video at all of the tsunami?
I did not.
That's an interesting one, because honestly, I was like, not to like be desensitized to anything like that, like the natural disaster is something I've never experienced and do not want to make small or little in any respect. But when I read the link and stuff, I was like, I don't know if I really want to take the time to look at it. And so today I was like, no, I'm going to. And at first it didn't seem to be anything too different from what I had seen on the news or anything. But as you watch it, it's like the 6-minute video, and it does not stop. And it's really, I don't know, I would encourage you just to watch it and to see what it does to you.
I'll watch it. For you, Sarah, I'll watch it.
Well, you and the listeners, yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know, it might be interesting.
Remind me what page that was on. Did you have a marking on it?
It was when she was talking about the surfer. Let's see. Where is it? I don't think I have it marked.
Now, what I do love about her analogy of surfing, because I am a paddleboarder, which is like a very kindergarten way to surf. And there are times when I'll lay down flat on my paddleboard and hang my arm over and then allow it to go into the water. And just sort of sit there in this idea that the water is holding me up and I can still run my fingers through it. Like at the same time, it is strong and weak. It allows, but then it has, it's weird when I think about it, but it's amazing.
Magic.
It is magic. That's exactly what it is.
253 is the page with the tsunami link.
Okay, because I don't want to not fulfill my promise. If I said I'm going to do something, I will watch it. It's getting sticky.
Sticky worthy.
It is sticky worthy.
So chapter 15 is leaping into the wild new world.
Leaping, jumping in with both feet, eyes open.
Leap. I didn't know that a leap of leopards. Did you?
I didn't know that, and I like the way that she brings in all these leopards and calls it the leopard nights of the soul instead of the dark night of the soul. Speaking of that, one of the things that she started talking about in chapter 14, but then goes into here, at the bottom of page 274, she says, surrender to the way things want to happen next, even though this often involves a vast and terrifying loss of control. Trust the magic that was born into your soul. Let the leopard kill you. Kill your present self, so that the nature of your true self can emerge. When I talk about those dark years, in a way, when I was rereading this to prepare for a recording, I understood on a different level that that's exactly what happened to me. That my self was dying. The self that, maybe more slowly, the self of the mother, the self of the military spouse, the self who was this volunteer leader and community, blah, blah, blah. Like that person no longer was going to exist. And that was a painful soul freaking death. But once I let her go into the wild west of yesteryear, like this person that I am now is so much more beautiful. And when I see people, they see the difference in me. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And I'm almost tempted to say that, and this is just semantics really, but it's the layers of the ego. Because I feel like this idea of self and thinking you have many selves, you do and you don't, kinda. And I think it's easier to distinguish when you talk about layers of the ego versus yourself, because if you, in essence, yourself is your soul. That's you.
Yeah, we don't think of ourselves in that way. We think of ourselves in that sort of first layer personality. Right? Mm-hmm. So when we do go to the depths of our soul, to the magic that we were born with, when we remember what we already know, then it becomes magical like that, and not just peripheral, like an ice cream without flavor.
Oh.
Right? Who would want that?
Not I.
Leaps of faith. Those are two really big words. Leaps of faith.
It's interesting too, and I don't know where I'm going with this right now, but honestly, this idea of transformation, letting the leopard kill your present self so that the nature of your true self can emerge. It's almost like, don't you just want to say this is inevitable? Like, how
no.
It'd be so easy if you didn't resist it.
But that's the thing. We're going to resist it because we don't know any better. So if we're suffering, if you're finding yourself on the floor or in a corner or behind, wherever you're finding yourself sort of crumbled up in a ball. I used to be in a fetal position, like on my bed with covers over me. You're resisting. That is a posture of resistance. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We don't realize it. If I had known that it was that simple, I don't think I would have made myself suffer for all those years. I would have let it go.
Geez, I want a magic wand. Ding!
Why?
Just because it's like, I don't know, right now it's kind of like, it could be so simple.
And we make it complicated. But that's the fun part of it, though, too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's kind of, it's the game.
It is the game. There's, I highlighted this one because it reminded me of you, but also because it connected with me. At the bottom of page 275, it says, it blends the wisdom of ancient menders with astonishing new machines. It doesn't ravage the true nature of humans, animals, and the earth, but heals, restores, nurtures, and celebrates all nature within us and around us. It spreads not through policies, laws, and enforcement, but through stories and laughter and adventure. Born from the companionship of dearest friends through the technologies of magic, dispensed through magical technologies. Wherever you go, it will find you. It is out there in the darkest part of your life, hunting you right now. Isn't that beautiful?
It is. I find that almost flattering. That reminded you of me. I had that highlighted as well.
You have the archetype of an ancient mender,
Well, the thing that sounded so mystical, yet so kind of like energizing and exciting is this new culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that has all the color. This new culture. It's like, it just tingles with so much. Like, we're on the brink, and we're talking about this idea of like transformation and resistance. And I feel like this is happening, well, and as Martha has explained, it's happening at a global level. It's not just the individual. Now, it's coming full form in how we live our lives. And it's bringing about a new culture. And how cool is that?
I know, and I was going to say, and that's how we save the world.
I just love it.
I do too. And it's a different skin on an old story. Like, in my past, I helped people with tools and careers, and now I feel like I help people with vocations and purpose. So it's like I was learning how to go into that deeper essence, that soul's desire, right? Like, all that led to this.
Well, I know I'm skipping quite a few pages. I'm looking at 285. Do you have anything that you want to touch on before we get there? I just think it ties in so nicely with this table that she...
Yeah, let's go there.
Because we're talking about this idea of the new culture and how you're talking about helping people with their careers as compared to working with their vocation and purpose. And that's a lot of what this table is, too. It's kind of the new perspective. She says, gives examples. For example, the career. She said, in the spent old world, it was dependent on the repression of a human's true nature And in the wild new world with this new culture, it's dependent on the expression of a human's true nature. Just the vast change from one end of the spectrum to the opposite. It's just, that sounds so invigorating.
It honestly is. And of that table, the one that speaks to me the strongest is the first one. The inner experience of individuals. The biggest shift for me, in my own experience, and when I relate it to Martha's philosophies, is this exactly this. In the past, we were dominated by our fear. We made decisions based on what we feared, how we wanted to be safe. And the distinct difference here is not that. It is not fear. It is the movement towards what I call love, and what is, in the book she says saturated with the present moment, but in the joy of the present moment, in the awe of this gift of freaking life, right? Instead of the Chicken Little syndrome. I used to live the Chicken Little syndrome. The sky is falling. The sky is going to fall. I know the sky is going to fall. Don't you see the sky falling? There was no sky falling. It's this amazing idea that here I am right now, and this is all that freaking matters. And when I lay my head down at night, I say my prayers. I give my thanks. I am grateful for everything, and look at where I could have been better. And then I'm freaking surprised in the morning when I open my eyes again. And I go, what? I get to do it again? It's just so different than the life I led before. Of rushing and not getting enough sleep and never having enough time, never having enough of anything. And now having more than I know what to do with. And to be honest, on the outside, nothing changed. Nothing is different on the outside. The only thing that's different is the way that I make meaning out of it from within out.
This is going back to the previous chapter Martha had quoted. I think it was Pink again. But they talked about individuals becoming the creators, the empathizers, and the meaning makers.
Yes.
We get to be meaning makers.
We are meaning makers. And here's this distinct difference that I see, especially when I think about Pink's work, is that we led a life in the past of checking off lists, right? A, B, C, check, 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 A plus, A plus, A plus. And instead, now we are creating movements from one thing to another. Like it's a symphony of music and of individual notes that come together to become a song versus a ladder. Like it's this stupid, boring ladder that you go from the bottom rung all the way to the top. And then once you get there, you look around and go, there's nothing up here. And instead, you're making music. You're creating a symphony with absolutely every step you take. I feel a little bit excited. I almost feel like I have to apologize for my energy.
No, don't apologize. This is big.
This is it. This is the idea of this, that it's not an impossible dream, that it is not an unreachable reality.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that we have to drop that old skin of what the world tells us it needs to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And be okay with being different. With the simplest things, I find that I apologize more and more. Well, I don't apologize, but I look at myself and go, I don't carry a purse anymore. Does that make me less of a girl? Because I don't carry a purse? Everyone else carries a purse, and some of them have really nice purses. Should I have a nice purse? It's those simple things that I sort of attach to and go, like, I know I'm different. I know I'm changing. And is anyone noticing that I don't carry a purse? Should I have a purse? It's weird.
Well, and how symbolic is that in terms of the weight and the way it feels?
Ooh,
I'm assuming
I
it's
like
a bit
that. Sarah, I love that.
How does it feel to not carry the purse?
Freaking amazing. Especially since in the past I had everything in my purse. It was almost like that game.
No.
There was a
Mary Poppins.
yes. I could pull out a zoo from my purse. It was ridiculous. It was this huge thing that just collected things. And now I literally have like my debit card, some cash, my ID. That's it. I don't need anything else. And it's amazing. But it's also difficult sometimes to go back into that worldly part, that cultural part, and go, but is that really how I want to be? Because I don't have anyone else that's like that to look to. And what I want to encourage people to do is to find people like you. That's the point of you and I being here right now, creating this book club for people just like you, because we're all weird in our own way and we're looking for other weirdos. So if you happen to be listening and you don't carry a purse, please call me. Please call me. One, to make me feel normal, but so that we can have a conversation. Because I'm sure that there are other commonalities, other similarities between us.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having that concept of unique individuality, but having a community and being in communion, having that support and that sense of comfort is just as good.
Well, and it goes back to what Martha's words were, and I'm going to not use all of them, but the premise is within and between. Within ourselves and between each other. That's all life is within and between. It is the meaning that we make and the relationships and the experiences that we share. It is that simple. Are we, within us and then between each other. Phew,
I just wanted to rest on that a bit because it's beautiful.
On page 287, the final sentence is, love is hunting your true nature. And it is very, very near. And it will never stop. Love is hunting your true nature. Once it's seen, it can't be unseen. And even though it's scary, it's not to be feared. Even though it's hard, it's not difficult. I sense that you want to say something.
I am. I'm thinking too much right now. Because part of me... And I'm tempted to say what it looks like on the other side. I think there are so many... It's just this concept that it's a journey. And there are many different, paths and loopholes and different things that you go through as you're continuing on the journey. But each step, you're able to look back as to what it was like before and after. You can see it from the other side. And I would probably say 9 times out of 10, once you're on the other side, you don't want to go back.
You can't go back. And not that you can't go back to where you came from or go back to your tribe or to go back to your old people, but you can't. It's like you can't unsee what you've already seen.
And it's the desire to not do that. It's not that you can't. And yes, you can't. It's rhetorical in the sense that even if you could, you would not want to.
Oh, very good point. Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You wouldn't want to. Do you have any closing thoughts on chapter 15 in our final chapter, final thoughts? Oh my goodness. I got to the last page. I'm going to turn it back.
You can't go back.
Aww. I do have, the last thing I have highlighted is on page 289. And it says, "The one is whispering to you that what you thought was lost is still yours. That whatever is broken in you can be healed. The longing hidden in your heart for however many years is nature waiting to restore itself. Give it space, give it love, and it will grow strong again." I love that.
It will grow strong again. Mm-hmm.
And the idea of it being a seed, and that you are nurturing it, you're giving it space, you're giving it water, but you're not doing the growing. You're not the one growing the seed. You're just allowing it to grow.
And what you're allowing to grow is your way.
Mm-hmm. Your true nature. Anything else, Sarah?
It was fun.
Oh my goodness. It was fun.
I truly appreciate and enjoyed our time together.
Not just ours between each other, but also the time that people are investing in listening, in reading Martha's work, and going through the 4 squares of attempting, practicing, playing, the forming, the scheming, the dissolving, and then doing it all over again. So, to all the teammates and all the wayfinders out there, we will see you in the every win.